Hare Krishna, good evening everybody and welcome to Krishna Stories. And today we are going to discuss another beautiful, thrilling, exciting adventure, Krishna and the Coward Boys. I'll just begin by chanting Hare Krishna mantra once. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, just allow your heart and ears to fully open to these beautiful narrations of Krishna's story. And may these narrations stay deep in our heart and soul and mind forever and ever. Long, long ago, the bird carrier of Vishnu, who was a great devotee of Krishna, his name was Garuda. He's a great devotee and he has the body of an eagle, but not an ordinary eagle. He's the king of birds. He's so powerful that he alone is capable of handling most of the upheavals which happen around the universe. Vishnu is not even needed. And at the same time, he's so beautiful and graceful. It is said that when he flies and flaps his wings, the hymns of the Rig Veda are the sound his wings make while flying. And so this magnanimous, compassionate Garuda flies all over the universe, assisting Vishnu in his mission, as well as taking care of so many other things on Krishna's behalf. And one day this great bird, eagle, being naturally habituated to eating fish and snake, being given the body of an eagle, that was his natural food. So he used to go down to the lakes and eat the serpents and the snakes. Now the serpents and the snakes became very scared. When is Garuda going to come? Who is he going to pick this time? Who is he going to eat? And they knew he's a compassionate soul. Just out of his bodily necessity, he has to do what he does. So they made a truce. They made a pact with him. And they promised him, the king of serpents spoke to him. And they said, we ourselves will give you an offering of a serpent every month. But please do not come and disturb and put us all in fear. And he said, yes, that's all I want. I'm absolutely fine with that. And then there was peace. And every month, one serpent was given an offering, and Garuda came, ate, and didn't disturb anybody else. But soon, there was one particular snake who came to power. And this snake, his name was Kaliya. And Kaliya was such a ferocious and powerful serpent. He had 1,000 hoods, of which only 100 were prominent. And each of these hoods were filled with venomous fangs, and his bifurcated tongue blew out so much venomous air and fire and spit together that he became so powerful. Soon he became the king of serpents. And he was unchallenged, undefeated, and started spreading his poison and his rule and power and control all over the lower planets and the middle planets and the higher planets. And everyone was really afraid of him. And he got to know of this peace pact with Garuda. And he said, why do we need a peace pact? We don't need anything, no peace with anybody. I am in control. And from now on, whatever offering was being given to Garuda, give it to me, and I will consume it. And from then on, for several months, he consumed and ate the offerings meant for Garuda. Garuda was busy flying all over the universe, working really with heart and soul, dedicated to his master Vishnu's, whatever his mission was, he wanted to fulfill everywhere. And one day he came hungry. He had not eaten for several months. And he was looking for, where is his quota? Where is the peace agreement? And he saw there's nothing there. And he went down and spoke to the serpents angrily. And they knew of Garuda's power before, which was unknown to Kaliya. And they said, please, please be kind to us. It's not our decision. It's our king Kaliya who did this. And Garuda was furious. He had already heard of the trouble Kaliya had begun to cause all over different places of the universe. And he said, maybe this is a good time to teach him a lesson and also to fill my belly. I'm really hungry. And so he went and met Kaliya. But instead of Kaliya just looking at him and understanding that this is an extremely powerful, invincible bird, he's the bird carrier of Vishnu himself, Kaliya became so arrogant and proud. He said, you little mosquito, what do you think you'll do to me if I don't give you your offering and sacrifice? Do you know the power of my venom and poison? I'll bite you once and you'll never see daylight again. And Garuda was so angry. He was not angry that he was insulted, but he was angry at the arrogance and pride of Kaliya, which would lead to him creating chaos and terror all over the world, and it was ultimately not good for Kaliya's soul. And so to teach him a lesson, Garuda attacked. And he attacked with such strength and such power, Kaliya didn't know what's happening. And from everywhere, it seemed that this one eagle had become 1,000. And he was attacked in every direction, and no matter how much. Kaliya was not an ordinary serpent himself. He had 1,000 hordes, and he had defeated numerous foes by now. And he was starting to become really infamous for his power. Nobody was challenging him anymore. And so he thought he'd defeat this enemy, little mosquito. But no matter what he did and tried, Garuda was invincible. He could not even get one bite at him. The minute he reached out with all his force and power, Garuda was in a different place and hitting him and scratching him and lifting him and throwing him and bashing him against rocks. And very soon the fight went on and on. So many serpents gathered to see this. And soon Kaliya knew he is going to die at this bird's hands. And he started to flee. He was running and sometimes biting and attacking. And suddenly he remembered a very special place. And he ran and straight to the earthly planet. And he went to a lake, a huge lake near Yamuna, right near Vrindavan. And as soon as he entered this lake, Garuda stopped and flew away. And from that day on, Kaliya resided in this lake. Now, Krishna and the cowherd boys, every day they would go out to the forest. And today they were so excited. Where are we going, Krishna? What are we going to do today? Do you remember yesterday how that donkey, and they laughed again at the donkey who was protecting the fruit. And some of them had still some tal fruits left with them. And some of them had brought the seeds to plant and grow. And they were so excited and happy. And the next day, they said, Krishna, let's go on a new adventure. There is a trail in the forest we have never explored before. You think we should go there? Krishna said, yes, why not? And all the cowherd boys in great excitement, adventure, yes, we are going somewhere new. And they were doing cartwheels and running and fighting with each other and breaking berries on the way. And they ran well ahead of Krishna. And by the time Krishna reached, what he saw really made him sad. There was this huge lake. And as he was getting closer, there was a thick fog through which it was so difficult to breathe. It was a fog of poison coming out of this lake. And as he was looking, it was so dark and dusty around this lake. And there was no sign of life anywhere. There were no birds, no flowers, no creepers, no grass. Everything was dead and burnt and twisted and dark. And when Krishna reached, they were barely able to see. Some of the cowherd boys were coughing, some were rolling, and some were lying almost dead, having drunk the waters of this particular lake. And then with his graceful glance full of love and compassion for his friends, Krishna woke them all up. Full energy and full enthusiasm and full, as on they didn't remember anything what had happened. And Hari Bol, yay, where are we, where are we? And then Krishna was so sad to see what is happening here. And at once he knew who is residing in this lake and who needs to be taught a lesson. And so after reviving his friends, Krishna said, I'm going to take a little dip in this lake. My dear friends, you enjoy, you just relax here. Don't worry about anything. Just be happy here. And that little part of the shore of that lake where the boys were, that became so beautiful because as soon as Krishna's foot touched the ground there, it came back to life. All the flowers bloomed again, the grass became, so the cows were grazing and the boys were sitting. And Krishna looked for a tree to climb like a little diving board. And he was going to jump. And he saw a huge Kadamba tree, a very beautiful tree. The only tree which was alive and kicking with life. And so Krishna tucked his waist belt, tucked his flute in, tied his hair back, and adjusted everything for a deep dive into this lake. And he climbed right on top of the Kadamba tree. And all the friends were, yay, Krishna, jump, yay. And Krishna, little 6.5-year-old boy, jumped into a tiny little boy, jumped into this huge lake. But as soon as Krishna landed in that lake, the splash he made, it was like 100 elephants had jumped in together. And it was so heavy, his fall, because within his little belly resides the entire universe. That the boundaries of the lake were flooded by water on all directions. And Krishna very casually began to play and splash. But his casual and playful splashes created massive ripples, perhaps tsunamis of water everywhere. And all the poisonous serpents living in that lake became so disturbed, they didn't know what's happening and who's. And deep within that lake, in a city which he had built for himself, the serpent king Kaliya became so furious. Who is this causing such havoc in my lake? Does this creature not know who I am and what I'm capable of? And he came out with all his strength. But he hadn't yet shown all his hoods, just a few of them. And he came onto the surface, and with his red, bloodshot eyes, fuming with poison and smoke and fire everywhere he looked, and he saw a very beautiful child. Even to his angry and envious and raging eyes, he couldn't help. But his heart was touched by the beauty of this little child, with his beautiful hair tied back and his big eyes and his red cheeks and lips, and the way he was swimming, he was so endearing. And suddenly his anger and envy engulfed all that tiny little appreciation which had awakened in his heart. And then with all his strength and power, he ran towards little baby Krishna, and he bit Krishna hard on the chest, with all his venom trying to soak it right into Krishna's body. But Krishna did not even flinch. And Krishna looked at him and started going near. As Krishna came near, he became even more upset, and then he went to snap at Krishna again. Krishna was not there, and Krishna was next to him. And he snapped and now Krishna started circling him. And he was, with all his 1,000 hoods now displayed, spitting poison and fire. He was so fast. And Krishna was still very casually, playfully swimming and splashing, but he was so fast. And Kaliya, just by doing this, he started tiring out. And sometimes Krishna would playfully come near and pet him, which felt like a thunderbolt on Kaliya's body, and he was he's wondering, what is this? Who is this child? And with all his strength, he went to snap with all his hoods, and sometimes he would bite himself, and he would spit out even more poison and pain. And sometimes Krishna would touch him, and a thunderbolt on his body, and finally he was so tired. And then Krishna saw an opportunity, and Krishna jumped onto one of his hoods. As soon as Krishna jumped onto his hoods, Kaliya got him and put him and strangled him. And Krishna was completely caught, completely entangled and caught. And suddenly this beautiful scene, which was the usual way Krishna would kill so many of these monsters, suddenly the boys were wondering, looking at each other, what's happening? And they saw Kaliya's grip tighten and tighten, and their little friend, he couldn't move anymore. And all of Kaliya's 1,000 fangs came up. Kaliya was spitting poison and biting. And this time, suddenly inauspicious omens were everywhere. The crows started cawing, and the donkeys were braying, and the waters, the climate, in the bodies of everyone, in their minds and thoughts, something went wrong. And far away in Vrindavan, the elders felt all this. And the minute they felt this, they knew Krishna is in trouble. And they ran, all of them together ran. Where did the boys go today? Where was that? Oh, they spoke about a trail, and they all left everything at a moment's slight inkling of something being wrong with Krishna. And they all ran, the cows ran, the elders ran, the young ran, everyone. And then finally they reached the shore of this lake. And they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their little Kanha, their little Krishna, coiled up in these ropes and tied up. And they were so devastated, they were so heartbroken. And Yashoda, she just wanted to enter that lake, and with great difficulty, the other women who were also crying, somehow they restrained Yashoda. And Nanda, he was saying, give me a stick. And they said, no, you can't go. And everyone was, and then they started singing and chanting all their memories of little Krishna and how he was and what he did. And they were wondering, is he going to die at this poisonous snake? The only person standing there absolutely calmly and smiling was Balaram. And Balaram was thinking, he said, I am Ananta Shesh. When I held up the universe with all my strength and power, I had to request my younger brother Krishna, who will hold me? And he took the form of a gigantic tortoise. And I sat on that tortoise, and on me the entire universe rests. What is this water snake going to do to my brother? And he was the least bit worried, and he was just smiling and laughing and thinking and wondering. And he wasn't saying anything. And for 2 whole hours, Krishna was just stuck, absolutely caught, like a tiny wasp in a spider's web. And this Kaliya thought, it's finished. This little boy, I'm going to tear him to bits and pieces and eat him alive. And Krishna was seeing from the corner of his eyes the anxiety he was causing to all his parents and friends and well-wishers. And when it was just about to be too much for them, it was just moments away, when Yashoda and Nanda would have perhaps left their bodies in anxiety and pain, suddenly Krishna expanded just a little bit. But because the coils of Kaliya were so tight around him, that little expansion pained Kaliya so much. Each and every, he was stretched. And then Krishna expanded a little more, and Kaliya couldn't help but he had to let go. And the minute he let go, Krishna jumped and again landed on one of his hoods. And Kaliya said again, now I'll not waste time. Now I'm going to finish you. And he, with his other hood, he went to bite Krishna with all his strength. And Krishna very gracefully, very elegantly, beautifully landed on that hood. And another hood came, and Krishna landed on that hood, and that hood, and that hood. And as Krishna started doing this, it became a beautiful dance. And from the previous scene of complete misery and complete hopelessness, suddenly the cowherd men and women, they were looking at each other and they actually began to smile and laugh, and 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 they were wondering, what is Krishna doing? Look, he's so beautiful, he's dancing, he's so graceful. And from above, the demigods, who by now had hidden, because they were afraid, if Krishna is killed by the snake, he's going to come after us. Krishna was perhaps the only person who was stopping him from doing that. And they came out from the clouds again behind and everywhere, and they started playing kettle drums, and their music flooded the sky, and they were showering flower petals. And Krishna began to dance to that music. While he was being attacked to be killed, Krishna performed the most graceful and beautiful dance anybody has ever seen. And from the previous scene of such anxiety, it went into the scene of most entertaining show the cowherd men and women had ever seen. And they were laughing and clapping and cheering. And but Yashoda and Nanda, they were still anxious. They said, Krishna, come now. Now it's okay. Now, yes, it's done. Now say sorry to this big Mr. Snake and come. Just come back now. And Krishna was jumping and jumping. But while Krishna was dancing so gracefully and so beautifully to everyone's eyes, every step on Kaliya's head felt like a gigantic hammer, a mountain coming down on his head. And this powerful snake, his head started beating down and breaking the bones, cracking his head, his skull, his everything becoming smashed. And along with that, his poison. He spewed out so much poison, but now blood started flowing out, and more blood flew, and his energy was sapped. And as Krishna went on and on dancing, even more energetically, even more beautifully, Kaliya's strength diminished more and more. His poison was finished. Now only blood flowed. His fangs were broken. His body was beaten down. And just as he was about to, oh, I have a few more very beautiful paintings of how different depictions of Krishna with Kaliya. And just as he was about to be completely vanquished, the wives of Kaliya suddenly emerged, and they prayed. They prayed, my dear Krishna. And the wives of Kaliya, you can see below in this painting, they were devotees of Krishna. They said, my dear Krishna, we were not going to come to tell you to stop, but seeing that our husbands, along with his poison, all his hate and anger and envy and pride is now gone. Now his true spirit self, which is the same spirit self in all of us, is awakened. And that same beauty of yours which he experienced in the beginning, he longs to see it again. Please forgive him. Please, if he hadn't given up his envy and anger and hate and pride, we wouldn't have come. We would have been happy that our husband achieved death at your lotus feet. But because he has, please forgive him. Now he will live a changed life, and he is your devotee. And hearing the prayers from his devotees, how could Krishna not fulfill their desire? Even an envious and hateful and vengeful, proud serpent like Kaliya is not only forgiven. You see what position Krishna gave him when a devotee prayed on their behalf. If a devotee prays on our behalf, it is the most powerful prayer, and Krishna is obliged to obey that and answer that prayer. And so Krishna said, all right, I will forgive him. And Krishna came down. And when Krishna came down, just within the lake still, he's not yet met his parents and everyone. And Kaliya offered prayers, such beautiful prayers, which are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And from the waters of the lake, Kaliya presented the treasures of the entire universe which he had captured. All kinds of unseen jewels and clothing and so many decorative items and things to eat, and all these presentations he made to Krishna. Krishna was very happy. And then Krishna told him, now please go, leave this lake and go to the ocean and take up residence there where you belong. And I promise you, you don't need to be afraid of Garuda anymore, because when he sees the mark of my footprint on each and every one of your hoods, he will know you're now my servant, you're my devotee, and I protect you. And in fact, he will worship you and serve you. And in this way, he gave an even more beautiful blessing to Kaliya. And he said, my dear Kaliya, not only that, when he said, not only that, my dear Kaliya, when I have to go somewhere in the waterways and Garuda is not available, I will use you as my carrier. So from being a person who came to murder Krishna, Kaliya got the position of now being his carrier, the same as Garuda. The enemy of Garuda was given the position as good as Garuda's, only because his wives, the dear devotees of Krishna, prayed on his behalf. And of course, because he gave up all that anger and hate and pride and envy, and he became a great devotee. And very soon, when Krishna came back to the shores and met everybody, they were so thrilled and so excited. And for many, many years after, they remembered this story so often, like we see in this painting. Even after Krishna left Vrindavan, they would always remember and enact this pastime of Kaliya. Oh, my dear gopis, they would tell each other, do you remember what Krishna did to the snake? And one of the girls would get onto the shoulder of the other girls. He danced, and the other girls would imitate the hoods. And like this, they beautifully remembered this most amazing story of the subduing of Kaliya. And while they were there on this lake, on the shore, because almost the whole day had passed now, 2 hours in the coils, and then after that the fight, and after that Kaliya presented so many things to Krishna which they were all seeing and beholding. So they decided to sleep on the banks of the lake that night. But while they slept, unknowingly, something terrible happened, which we will discuss next Monday during our Krishna stories.